In the news this week, enough is enough. Citizens demanded tougher stand against parole on dangerous sex offenders.
Plus, residents are demanding the EPA review the construction of a concrete batching plant.
This is the Evening News.
Good evening. The public said they have enough of seeing dangerous sex offenders or violent criminals given freedom, despite them repeatedly breaking parole conditions. Hundreds of citizens converged at Forest Place, demanding the government to introduce harsher penalties for perpetrators.
It was a peaceful rally with a simple message. Hundreds of protesters joined the rally on Forest Place, saying that they're fed up with the court's decision to grant sex offenders and violent criminals freedom, despite a track record of them breaching parole conditions. It's a cause supported by the opposition leader Mark McGowan and media personality Darren Hinch.
They'll make sure that dangerous sex offenders can't be so easily released, and they'll protect the rights of those people who have lost a loved one to a murderer and hopefully assist in finding the body.
Any man that needs more than 40 conditions on their parole papers should not be out of jail. It's dangerous.
During an emotional speech, victims are calling for harsher penalties for sex and violent offenders.
I have had enough, and I made an oath that day that I came forward. I will be the voice for every victim still living that cannot come forward, because it is amazingly hard to live with day by day.
Demonstrators then completed the rally by marching from Forest Place to Elizabeth Quay. Eunice Lau, WAMN News.
Residents in the eastern suburbs continued their long-term campaign against the approval towards construction of the new concrete batching plant. The community is lobbying Environment Minister Albert Jacobs to carry out an assessment following their concerns for potential health problems.
Residents near Bayswater's concrete plant protested Parliament House this week, demanding an environmental survey following serious health risk claims to the people in the area. Mayor of Bayswater, Barry McKenna, says he has been fighting for the past 5 years, but the EPA has declined to survey the area.
Common sense would say you don't have a heavy industry in this location, and all we're asking for is that Minister Jacobs directs his department to go and do the environmental assessment.
Bassendean, State Member of Parliament, agrees it is necessary for the EPA to assess the plant and promises to assess if they are elected again.
They don't want to be living in an area where they have to contend with cement dust.
Under the current regulation, concrete plants need to have a 300 to 500 metre buffer zone. Meanwhile, the residents express their concerns over potential health problems.
They're saying this plant is dangerous to everyone's health, but the EPA and SAT don't seem to think that's really important.
The Environmental Minister responded that instead of the EPA assessing it, it should be the Department of Environmental Regulation.
I can assure local residents, however, that this proposal, either way, will be subject to the fullest environmental rigour.
Cora Brown, WAM News.
Controversial radio hosts Carl and Jackie O might find themselves in trouble again after making prank calls to 2 Chinese restaurants. Some members of the community have launched a petition on change.org demanding a formal apology from both hosts and radio station KIIS-FM. They also want the program's Wrong Number segment to be cancelled. More than 2,000 people have signed the petition online so far.
It was racially motivated. Obviously, how they titled that particular segment, how they laughed and how they mocked the accents. And it does not send a very good message to the entire country.
The state government says it'll shut down redundant coal-fired plants in an effort to reduce the excess supply as part of a series of electricity reforms. Energy Minister Mike Nahan says the surplus electricity in the southwest interconnected system was enough to power up to 750,000 homes on a hot summer's day, costing consumers around $120 million a year. But the opposition remains sceptical about the saving claims.
Our plan to reduce cost in those industries, those businesses, to the tune of $500 million a year. That translates into reduction in cost of electricity of $500 per household per year.
In the future, when power stations close, that may well reduce costs, but the changes today do not of themselves save any money.
British Prime Minister David Cameron has admitted on television that he has profited from selling shares through an offshore investment fund set up by his late father. His comment comes after the leaking of confidential documents from Panama-based law firm Mossack Fonseca. Mr. Cameron admitted of selling $42,000 worth of shares before he became Prime Minister back in 2010. However, he stressed that the profit he earned was subject to UK taxes.
There's more fallout towards Malaysia's 1MDB fund scandal, with the state's parliamentary inquiry presented in Kuala Lumpur this week. The PAC report found the company's CEO, Shahrul Azral Ibrahim Halami, should be held responsible for the fiasco and authorities should detain him. Meanwhile, the report did not make any alleged misconduct by embattled Prime Minister Najib Razak. For the past few months, Mr. Razak denied allegations of taking billions of dollars from the 1MDB fund.
And finally tonight, WA's longest serving teacher officially retired this week after educating students for more than 60 years. 80-year-old Bill Hahn has taught in various schools across the state and was amongst the first batch of teachers to embrace technology. Education Minister Peter Collier attended Mr. Hahn's final lesson in Rossmore Senior High School, where he congratulated him.
I'm sure there's a degree of reticence and a degree of sadness as far as Bill is concerned, but at the same time a degree of satisfaction in terms of what he's achieved in education over those 60 years.
I hope I can find some things to do, maybe further studies or catching up in some of the areas that I haven't covered in my life, and of course trying to maintain social contacts.
And from the WAMN News team, we wish him every success whatever he endeavours. And those are the top stories you need to know this week.
You can follow our latest news on our website and Facebook. Daniel Staniskov and Western Perspective will return next week. Thanks for your company. Good night.
Good night.